Hello, what is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast. And today we will be recapping Power Book 3, Raising Kanan, Season 5, Episode 10. And the title of the episode is Gimme The Weight. And I am joined today by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing today, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers? By the way, season 4, Gary. We don't want to have people thinking we're already watching season 5 when we aren't.
Oh, my bad. My bad. See, that's how excited I am for the next season. You're trying to see what happened after that cliffhanger, So
yeah.
But yeah, my bad. Season 4, and we're also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana?
I'm excited. I'm conflicted. I'm confused. I have issues. I'm emotional. I'm all over the place. We'll discuss for this finale of a cliffhanger episode, which things that is making me.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. This episode definitely sent the fandom into a whirlwind. Like there's a lot of talk going on right now. So yeah, that's why we're here, because we definitely need to clear some things up. But before that, let's do some housekeeping. Real quick, I just want to say, I almost didn't make this episode because I actually went into hospital after the last episode. Shortly after we recorded that last episode, I ended up having a sickle cell crisis. And yeah, like when I woke up the next morning, I kind of knew I had to go into hospital just because, it was affecting my head and my chest and stuff. And that's when it gets dangerous with sickle cell. So I actually ended up going in hospital, and I didn't know if I was going to make it back out to do this episode on time. But thankfully, I did. I spent about 5 days in there. I got out on a Wednesday evening. So thankfully, I was able to come out and rest a little bit before this episode dropped. And yeah, now I am here. So I got to thank God for that one, because yeah, God He looks out for you sometimes. So thanks to God for letting me be here today so I could watch this interesting episode of this finale of Power and talk about it with my good people here, Richard and Dana. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and thanks to all the people who looked out for me and checked up on me when I was in hospital and stuff, including Dana and Richard. So yeah, shouts to you all. And also I want to give a big shouts to Dana, because she's been on fire this past week, like with the content and stuff. Like, for all those that don't know, check the channel, because I'm sure you guys all know she wasn't on the last episode that we did, but she did do a follow-up episode with Richard where she discussed her thoughts on episode 9, and she also talked about the Emmys event, the Raising Kanan Emmys event that she went to, and brought us her first-hand experience. So big shouts to you, Dana. You've also been posting a lot on the social media and stuff, and you've been going viral and all that stuff. So yeah, big shouts to Dana, because she definitely been on fire this week. So and yeah, as usual, big shouts to the community as well for supporting the content, leaving comments every week. And yeah, I can't wait to see what they say about this one. I know everybody's like dying to share their thoughts on this finale, so I can't wait to see what everyone has to say. But with that being said, let's get to the takeaways. It is my turn to go first this week, so I'm going to jump right into it. I don't want to delay too much because I want to hear what Richard and Dana have to say too. So yeah, okay, so first thing I'm going to get to is Breeze. So we finally got it. We finally got our reveal of Breeze. There's been so much speculation, to get here. There's been so many theories, so many so many like people believing that it was Unique or it was Ronnie or it was this person or that person, but we finally have Breeze, and the style of the character definitely caught people off guard. Because I feel like they gave him more of like the RZA from Wu Tang kind of look instead of Raekwon, who Shamik actually played in Wu Tang. He played Raekwon. Raekwon is more of like a grimy, hoodie kind of, character, but they gave him more of like the RZA swag, like the conscious kind of look, which was interesting. I don't think people kind of expected that. I think they kind of took this direction because we know that Breeze is someone who he used to watch Jeopardy every day. That's how Kanan described him in OG Power. So I think they kind of maybe took this direction with the character to make it appear that he has he has some sophisticated qualities to him. Like he might be smarter than the average kind of hustler. So maybe they kind of took this kind of approach with it. And also, the ride kind of threw me off because it's a flashy ride. But I feel like they really just wanted to make a statement with this character, which is why, just the way it was shot, where you see the car, the wheels and everything pull up. Like I think they just wanted to, make a big statement with the character, like, okay, this is Breeze. Breeze is here, So I think that kind of influenced a lot of the style decisions with the character. But with that being said, I think Shamik Moore is a great, actor to play Breeze, because no matter how the character looks, I think he's gonna kill this role. I think like he's gonna embody the character. He's gonna really sell, who Breeze is. So they did their job, because now I can't wait to see how the uh, the friendship develops between Kanan and Breeze. And I've been I've been rewatching some old Power while I was sick and stuff, and they do reference Breeze quite a lot throughout the first three seasons of OG Power, like Kanan in particular. They do, and Tommy and Ghost, they mention him like he was really someone. So I want to see the setup for all of that play out in season 5, and I do think that will probably get the introduction of Tommy and Ghost in season 5 also, based on Breeze showing up now. But I do think Kanan and Breeze, they probably have to really develop first. I think like they have to develop a close friendship first. I think it's very interesting that he's related to Snap and Pops, that he's their nephew, because I do think that no matter what happens with Kanan and Raquel, I think at some point Kanan is gonna want to take Snap and Pops out. He's gonna want to take them out of the game. Maybe he figures out the truth behind the situation, and he decides, we need to take them out. So I want to see how that plays out with Breeze, since he's directly related. And from everything we hear about Breeze and Kanan, they were like real tight. So I think maybe it's a situation where Breeze actually gives his blessing to Kanan to get rid of them, and maybe even helps them, and then they just take over everything together. So could be something like that. But yeah, I want to see what direction they take it. But it is good to finally have that reveal, because yeah, like the Power universe, the fandom have been going crazy about Breeze like for the past few years. Like as so we finally have some closure now of who he really is, and who's playing him and stuff. So that's cool. Um, and yeah, so moving on, I have a little problem. Like, okay, this is one of my favorite characters in the show, but I have a little problem with how she was written in this episode, and that's Jukebox. so so let me explain, right? Let me explain what I mean. Um, I love Jukebox, and the scene she had with Bettina Miller, like with Raquel at the diner, that was an incredible scene. Like the dialogue, like it was so well written. Like when she was like, "Oh, you didn't see me, but I saw you. Like I see you." Like basically saying that you guys didn't notice that I was in the room because I wasn't saying anything, but I saw everything that was going on all of these years. I saw you do all these different things. I just didn't say anything about it, but I've been noticing. Like all of that was great. Like how like the dialogue in this entire episode was great. Like some of the lines, like incredible. The way it's written, right? But there's just something that irks me a little bit when it comes to Jukebox in this episode, and it's I was looking at Jukebox to be the one to beat some sense into Kanan, or to talk some sense into Kanan. Um, to let him know that it wasn't what you think. It wasn't Raquel. Like, you need to think about this differently. You need to really use your critical thinking before you make some kind of action. Now, she did at the start of the episode, she did mention that maybe Snap and Pops are kind of trying to lead him on, or, you know, um, lie to him or whatever. She did kind of allude to that at the start of the episode. So props to her for that. But moving further into the episode, uh, she kind of let me down, because it's like when it got to the Garcia thing, Garcia came up to her and he basically tried to accuse her. He questioned her about Krystal, and then he let it slip. Oh, there was a black woman leaving the scene or whatever, so that's why I'm coming to you. And she gave him a look like, what the hell? Like, a black woman left the scene and now you're coming to talk to me? Like, I'm the only black woman like out here or something? Like, she gave him a look like that, right? But then she goes on to do the exact same thing to Raquel, because it's like, how is Raquel the only black woman out there? Like, so because he said it was a black woman who left the scene, instantly you think it could be Raquel? Like, there's other black women out there, and she knows that Snap and Pops is a man and a woman, right? So why is Raquel the only person that, because then she goes back to Kanan and she tells him what she heard, and it's like, and all of a sudden they've decided that it's probably Raquel, and it's like, that's what kind of leads up to the ending that we got, right? But yeah, it's just that part of it was it was like Jukebox let me down there, because it's like the same thing Garcia does to you, you did to Rock, basically. It's like, you made the assumption that it was Raquel. She was the only black woman out here that could have had something to do with it. And I get that, okay, Raquel was the last person to be seen with Krystal, but it's got to be more to it than that. Like, so what? She was the last person to be seen with her. Like, does that mean like you don't know what Krystal's carrying around in her life? Like, it could be somebody else you don't know. Like, why is it just instantly Raquel all of a sudden, when Jukebox was the one who, she was typically the one who would actually use critical thinking and be like, look, it doesn't mean that it's her or whatever. Like, so I'm just kind of disappointed a little bit, because she definitely egged Kanan on in this episode. Like, she was kind of the one that made him make these decisions. So, that was my second takeaway. So moving further into the Kanan thing, because this is my, this is where my main points are. So as for Kanan and Rock, first of all, I have to say, leaving us on a cliffhanger like that was ballsy. I know Sasha Penn, he's kind of been vocal about that since the episode aired. He's standing on it and stuff. And from a marketing perspective, I get it. I understand why you would do that, because you want people talking for an entire year about if Rock's alive or what's going to happen. So I get it. I understand why the decision was made, but I feel like, and also it was probably done to keep the cast together for another season. So like, you can keep the cast all together going into the final season and stuff. So that's probably another decision. And fair enough, I understand that. But for us fans, the viewers, the ones who tune in every week, we needed something conclusive to happen in this episode. And I'll tell you why. Throughout this entire season, there's been a lot of talk about this season is slow. And it was. The first half of this season was very slow. But, personally, I didn't see a problem with it because the character work and, the drama, the acting, all of that was carrying it very well. Like they did a great job of holding it all together, even though the plot was developing a little slow. So I didn't have a problem with it. But it was slower, it was a slower season. So because it was such a slow build up, because, it really started to kind of gain momentum these last few episodes and really build up. So we needed something big to solidify the season. Like we needed something big or major to happen in this episode for this season to be a 10 out of 10, basically. Um and we didn't get it. We everything was kind of just left in the air, like the war with Unique, Pernessa being captured, Raquel and Kanan, like everything is just left suspended in midair, Um, and we just needed something. We just needed something, and instead we got Fade to Black. And that for me personally was a bit of a letdown. Um, I feel like, we know some of these characters aren't gonna make it at this point. We know that. So just give us a death, give us something, give us something to be like, oh wow, And I get that they probably thought, oh, we're introducing Breeze, like maybe that's enough, but it wasn't enough. And the reason why it wasn't enough for me is because Breeze had nothing to do with the story until now. Like he had nothing to do with the build up of this entire season at all. So you can't just give us Breeze and be like, oh, you got Breeze, you got the introduction of Breeze in this episode. Like, we needed something else to kind of give us that closure of what this entire season has been building up to. And we were kind of robbed of that because of the cliffhanger, in my opinion. But with that being said, um, so let me speak directly about it. I think I think that Kanan is a bit of a dummy for coming to this conclusion about, like, so you want to kill your mother because you think she had something to do with Krystal's death, right? And you heard that a black woman left the scene or whatever. But you have to, at some point, you have to think, like, because even Kanan says it, right? He says with Famous, he gave her the benefit of the doubt because he was like, okay, maybe she knew something about Famous I didn't know. Maybe he was snitching or whatever. Like, he said that himself, right? But he didn't use that critical thinking when it came to the Krystal thing, because what motivation does Raquel have to kill Krystal? What is the motivation there? Like, I don't understand what the motivation is. And okay, just because she was the last person to be seen with her or see her or whatever, Krystal came to her house. So, like, she wasn't going to kill her at the house, right? I don't think she would do that. So it's like, obviously, Krystal must have left the house. Now, I guess you could argue that maybe Raquel had her killed directly after she left the house or whatever, but still, why? Like, what is the point in all this? And Krystal came to her. Like, it wasn't like she went looking for Krystal or something. So yeah, I just feel like, yeah, Kane's just a bit dumb. Like, if we like we went in on Tariq for what he did, all those years ago on Power, we went in on him, but Kanan is he's moving a little sloppy. Like, he's being really emotional right now. So yeah, I don't like that, and that's why I was really looking for Jukebox to be the ones who kind of maybe guide him or something. I think also Breeze might be he might be the character who really kind of elevates Kanan a bit and gets him thinking clearer about things maybe. But yeah, I was really hoping that Jukebox would talk some sense into him. But yeah, this is where we're at. He ends up going to Raquel's place and holding a gun up to her, and then we get this cliffhanger where it fades to black, and then we hear gunshots. So either he killed her or he didn't. And that's what we're going to be talking about a lot throughout a lot of this episode, whether he actually killed her. And I know me and Richard have some thoughts on that because we talked about the possibilities of what actually happens in that scene. So I'm gonna, maybe Richard will bring it up, but we'll get to that. But yeah, these are my thoughts and my takeaways from this episode. Overall, I feel like there were stronger episodes this season than this finale. I feel like the ending was just a bit of a letdown, in my opinion. I feel like we should have got something. We should have got some kind of death. Because to me, it seems like Marvin is on his last legs as well. And yeah, like we didn't even get Stefano's kill confirmed because he survived apparently. So it's like no one died. It just feels too safe. Like it feels too safe and too tidy up. Like for me, and it needs to be a bit messy in my opinion. Like so that's my critique of the episode, but it was great. I do want to say the writing was superb, like the dialogue and everything. Like Sasha Penn, the writers on this show, they're doing top tier work with the writing, like the dialogue and everything. Because Raquel said that line to Marvin, which is my name right there, where she called him day late, dollar short Marvin, like basically dissing him and stuff. Like that was hilarious. Like I don't know who came up with that, but that was hilarious. But yeah, that those are my thoughts. So we're gonna move on to Miss Dana Abercrombie. So when you're ready, Dana, hit us with your takeaways.
Did you see I have my special Law and Order hat on because I'm doing my investigation on this show and find out what's really going on. But yes, I had I had seen this way earlier than you guys did because I did the interview with Sasha and Patina, which we go through. Are you dead? Are you alive? Cliffhanger. So if you want to know why Sasha decided to end the season on a cliffhanger as opposed to tying up everything neatly in a bow and at least giving us answers, he explains all of that. It's in the video that already dropped. He explains why he ended it that way. I spoke to Patina and we talked about basically why it's okay if she is dead, kind of that inner peace that she would have an understanding, and that she's been carrying, well, and then we'll go into the actual title of the episode. She's been carrying a lot, and this could be a way of finding that peace and freedom, and that weight is no longer on her because she is dead. However, if she is alive, we also spoke about what that means in terms of having literally nobody, having everyone turn on you, including your son, and say she does survive or she never was shot to begin with. We'll get into that. What that actually means coming into season 5. So we discussed it all. But let me tell you, having to watch this entire show, this episode, and having literally no one to talk to for like over a week has been mentally, it's a lot for me because it was like I have these emotions and I can't emote. I felt like Kanan. I felt like the monologue that Kanan gave at the beginning of the episode, which is um when it comes to this, you got to keep it all inside. You can't let people see you shook or hurt or even happy. If you show them how you feel, you're going to figure out a way. They're going to figure out a way to turn on you. On the block, feeling is weakness. Because when you start feeling, you ain't thinking. And when you ain't thinking, you're a mark. So you keep all of that inside until you can't keep it there no more. And that is kind of the definition of Gimme the Weight. No one has an outlet for what they're going through. And you have Kanan, who I still want to remind you is a teenager. His frontal cortex, the part of the brain that processes thinking and rationality and let's debate this, is not fully formed. That doesn't form until your 20s. So it's not there. So when you say he's acting stupid, yes, but to him it's rational because he doesn't have that cortex in him to think rationally. So, which is why you see kids just do whatever they want to do. That cortex isn't fully formed. And I wanted to say, I know a lot of people are comparing Kanan's actions right now to Tariq. Even I did at one time until I realized this is not true at all. Tariq is coming from a place of privilege. His daddy did not want him to be involved in this business. And even to the very end, kept telling him, why are you doing this? The boy got beaten with a bag of oranges because he was just stupid. He faked his own kidnapping, which is a whole other thing that ends up, it ties into Kanan, but that's not quite because that's adult Kanan. But the thing is, Tariq comes from a place of privilege where he did not have to do this. And you could say so did Kanan because remember, he was like, I want to be a part of it. And it was like, oh, what happened to Stuyvesant? The slight difference is that some people are born for it and other people aren't. Kanan, I feel, is born for this lifestyle. Tariq, not really. Not really. I don't feel that he did what he did, and you can say he was successful at what he did, but in terms of being born and breaded into this, I think that Kanan gets the upper hand. And also, Kanan, his place of privilege was slightly different because he was born into wealth. If he wanted to go to, I don't know, but he went to private school because all of that was paid for. He wore the nicest clothes because that all was paid for. Kanan and his family literally have to work for it. They're not in a penthouse. They're in an old regular house in the middle of Queens. Tariq comes from Manhattan. The skyline, everything. Kanan comes from Queens. So he is more authentic when it comes to the streets as opposed to Tariq. So this is why I feel mentally they're also just not the same. So that is one of the things there that I just wanted to just mention quickly. But this whole episode was about, passing on kind of the weight of what they did. And I feel that Patina's character, Raquel, she has held on to so much that when she comes at the end of when Kanan is like, why you killed Krystal? It wasn't a fact of not caring anymore. I feel, kind of spiritually gave up at that point where she didn't fight back. She didn't argue. She made her statement, and at the end, she closed her eyes, and it was like, come what may. I'm willing to do that. And the whole thing also was Kanan didn't kill, and we'll put quotations, Raquel because she killed, or he assumed that she killed Krystal. He even stated, it's not even about Krystal. It's not even about fame no more. It's about everything, the accumulation, the weight of what Raquel has done to Kanan, the years of the manipulation, the lies. He feels that he cannot trust her anymore. So it's not like I'm going to kill you because I think that you killed my friend, Krystal. It's more of everything that you've put me through. You killed my father. You lied about who my father was. When I found out who my father was and I was trying to build a connection with him, you killed him too. I couldn't even have that connection. And you can ask, even the whole situationship with D-Wiz, even though Marvin gave that speech and was like, it was me. Kanan still feels that Raquel shares some of that responsibility as well. Even though she walked through what would happen and she talked to Kanan about it, there's still like a difference between yeah, you go kill him, as opposed to actually having to deal with someone gone. And I think because he is so young and it's not like, hey, let's go to the therapist today. He does not have that outlet. And you can argue, oh, Jukebox is that outlet, which we'll get back to as well. It's not the same. Jukebox is a kid herself. So it is the continuation of passing down pain. You're trauma dumping on kids who then can't trauma dump on anyone else. They don't have therapists. They're kids themselves. And if you really look at it, and we'll get back to, because there's a whole thing about Jukebox. Jukebox doesn't have really anyone to talk to. She could talk. This to me felt like it was one of those few conversations that she could have with her father. And yes, she had conversations before, but to fully go out and explain all of her feelings, I don't think that she can, or they're not equipped to understand and handle that. Marvin, as they stated, has made changes because he does want a relationship with his daughter, but they need that therapy, which is why I think that it was so important that Lulu had that therapy. He was in rehab, but within that rehab, there was therapy in it. And then when they went and asked, Raquel, how do you feel? She was just like, I deal with it however I have to deal with it. You learn how to compartmentalize, so she does not have that place either, which is why I think it was so significant that they said, give me the weight. And give me the weight also alludes to, now it's time to pass that on to someone else. If Raquel is dead, or even if she's not dead, Kanan then now has the burden of killing his mother or putting his mother out of the picture and what that means. And therefore, you can make the argument his real killing didn't start until he killed his mother. He's emotionally dumping on his mother. And I think that even if she's not dead, there is going to be a break where therefore he now has to carry the weight of what is going on with him and in his future. Because remember what Lulu said was, the actions that you do today are responsible for how you respond tomorrow. Also, on top of that, Jukebox, when she had that conversation with Raquel, and she's literally saying, every time you see me, you're always just dumping your problems onto me. Every time. You don't see me as a person. You don't see me as, hey, I'm your niece. Let's go to the movies. Let's go get some pizza. Let's go get ice cream. And it's not being, oh, because I want to tell you about what's happening with me. A grown woman dumping onto a teenager, a child. It was never about seeing her as like, hey, you're a child, let me put you in your child's place. In terms of, let me not burden you with these problems. Let's go out for pizza. How are you doing? How's your group doing? What are your goals that you want for the future? Let's see how we can make that work. There was never that. So I think that that conversation that she had with Raquel was literally stating, I am no longer your dumping ground anymore. I am giving everything that you gave to me back to you. In terms of, I'd rather be my father's daughter as opposed to me being your niece. Because remember, she was like, oh, look at your father. She's like, yeah, I'd rather have him than you. Because you can make the argument, he's at least trying to be there now for her. So that was one of the things there. And then going on to the fact that, what was another one? We have the big one, obviously, with Breeze. But I wanted to just, before we get to Breeze, I wanted to talk about Stefano and Phil. That entire conversation where Phil was the one who was like, hey, you got to kill Sal so that I can sit on the throne. And then all of a sudden, Phil is like, I got to kill you because the boys want you dead. And Sal is like, excuse me? This is all your situationship. What? And how there's a hierarchy to things and how he has to make things look a certain way so that Phil can kind of rally the troops on his side and look like he's sitting king of the throne of, I don't know, mobster land. And now with the fact that Stefano is alive, he has the ability to actually take the mob family and turn it against Sal. Nope, sorry, Sal's dead. Phil. So that is an entire other different weight and another burden that is now being passed between both of them. Because Phil was like, look, I got this weight on my shoulder, but I got to get rid of you. So he thought he was getting rid of him by getting rid of that weight. But with Stefano alive, I'm dying, sorry. With Stefano alive, now it seems that, Stefano could be the one that's in control. So it's a passing back and forth of who's going to carry the weight of the mob. And then kind of going on with Breeze, check out, we did an interview during the beginning of season 4 where I was like, look, I love you, both of y'all, Sasha and Makai, but where's Breeze? For 3 years, y'all have teased us with Breeze. You was the one that came down with the big airplane. It was like, ooh, Breeze. There's a breeze coming through. The air is breezy. And he finally gave us Breeze. Now, I'm not looking for this really big, like, oh, here's this big introduction thing. Like, I wasn't expecting, like, it's Southside. You remember when, I think with season 1, when Raquel was about to be gunned down, and then all of a sudden Unique came through, and he shot the guy in the face, and it was like, Southside. I didn't expect that from Breeze. But I did like the way how they introduced him. I did like the fact that they made it the connection that Breeze is Snaps and Pop's nephew. I appreciated that because you'll see how a lot of family ties, if you really look at this Power universe itself, it's a lot of killing within the family and the blood family, which, just adds another layer to it. And I am going to assume that it is clearly going to be Kanan that takes out Snaps and Pops, and I really feel that it's going to be with permission of Breeze. One of the things that I wanted to mention about Breeze was that how Snaps and Pops really views him as like the leader of this group that they're about to have. I'm taking you under my tutelage. Breeze is taking everyone under their tutelage, and by that picture that we know of, when it comes to like who's and what, when it comes down to the war of what's going on, which we didn't know was going to be a war, but now we know that it's going to be a war. So it's going to be Snaps and Pops. Because remember, it was like, I want to introduce you to somebody because we want to spread around our enterprise. Snaps and Pops, Unique, Breeze, Kanan, and Jukebox. That's going to be, I feel, that little tiny enterprise thing that's going to go on for that side. On the other side, we, of course, I'm getting all over the place. On the other side, we'll have Marvin and what is the brother's name? Lulu and Raquel. I'll explain with Raquel because everybody's like, oh my gosh, you did. Yes and no, maybe, we don't know. But the point that I'm simply saying is the fact that when they introduced Breeze, and I found this to be really funny, is that yes, he is intellect. You have the whole thing with the the Jeopardy. He was watching Jeopardy. There's a higher thing with the intellect. But it was really interesting when they introduced him because they said that, oh, he's a kind of person who is also like open to change. He's a scholar and he learns how to adapt. Why did Breeze die? Does anybody remember? Because he wouldn't adapt. He wouldn't change his ways. That's why Kanan took him out. So I just found it really funny that, oh, he's so adaptable. He loves to change. Huh?
It was Ghost who took him out.
It was Ghost who took him out. But the point is that I love the fact that he was like, he was adaptable. He changes. He's always aware of what's going on. He's a scholar. But the reason why he died was because of the polar opposite of that. So I really found that to be so funny. So we're going to see that character arc. Obviously not throughout this season because we'll get into the season 5 ending. But through Origins. For y'all don't know, they already announced that season 5 is the last season. We'll get into that later also as well. So yes, I believe those are the 3 things, and I have talked way too long. about what's going on, but yay, and also early deserved what he got. So see, we got a death. We got an early death.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh no, go ahead, Rich. You were gonna say something.
Oh no, I was going to just say, yeah, there's outstanding takeaways by Dana. Yes, we did get an early death. I have some comments to make though, but go ahead, Gary. I'll get into my takeaways soon. I think you were going to say something, Gary.
Okay, and I was gonna say excellent takeaways. Um, and yeah, I agree about Breeze. Like it's gonna be interesting to finally see how the character pans out and what actually leads up to Ghost killing him, because yeah, that was the reason, because he didn't want to adapt. So the way I'm thinking is like, Breeze is probably, he probably lives and dies by his code and his strategy and his way of doing things. And it's like maybe the game one day the game kind of changes and it creeps up on him, and Ghost represents like the new way of doing things. And it's like, I guess it pans out like that. But I want to see all of that. Like I'm just so interested in seeing all of these origins to these storylines that we kind of know already. So I can't wait to see how they do it. And I think Shamik is the perfect actor as well to take us there. So can't wait. But yeah, excellent takeaways overall. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go and check out Dana's interview with Sasha Penn and Patina Miller. Because yeah, very important interview, and it's entertaining hearing Sasha Penn's like his direction on things, and just like you could tell he's really interested in kind of working the audience a little bit. Like he's really trying to he's trying to lead us on and make us continue the discussion and everything. Like so, I think he's really invested in that. So shouts to him, because it is cool to like get everyone excited about your art, your work and everything. So shouts to him for that. But Richard, it is your turn next with the takeaways. So when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways.
Okay, so first and foremost, outstanding takeaways by Gary and Dana. I don't know if I'm going to be able to match all the stuff that they made excellent points that I agree with. But yeah, I do have some things I want to say. So let me start by saying I think this was a very well written episode of Raising Kanan. Raising Kanan is and will always be what I consider to be one of the better Power spinoffs. But I was not a fan of that cliffhanger, and I will get into that later. Why I wasn't a fan of the cliffhanger. But yeah, let's get into the other takeaways of this episode. So let me go ahead and start this off. I know there was a clip circulating. I believe it was the other day before the episode premiere of Unique's conversation with Lou and Raquel, and how Unique was very messy in that conversation about telling Lou about how he messed around with Raquel, all this other stuff, and that was considered, they came to him as a warning to basically say, hey, we're just letting you know we can get to your family too, so you need to tread lightly. And obviously in this episode, when we get into what's happening with Unique, obviously they have this other story going on in the background. He's still working with Sal's wife, still working with Russo. As Dana pointed out, a very interesting interaction between Russo and Stefano. But I will say this, to go to Gary's point, I also have to critique the fact that Russo did take out the Stefano. Now, obviously, it made sense why he stabbed Stefano, but to me, Russo was very much a punk, because if you're going to kill somebody, you should take them out and make sure that they are dead. That's why he then circled back on Unique later in the episode and said, hey, I don't know if he's fully taken care of, so you can do whatever you want to do. You have my permission to do whatever. And then that's when Unique got very excited, because we know he wanted to burn down those Chinese restaurants, all those shops, which he proceeded to do at the end of the episode. And he also proceeded to now start his attacks on the Thomas family. At the same time, Lou, this entire episode, was spying and found Pernessa and Jerome. You know, that's her son with Unique. And he decides to kidnap them at the end of the episode with B-Rilla. So B-Rilla getting involved right away, just as he wanted to be involved, because he needed that money to take care of his family. So clearly, we're going to have to wait and see. Obviously, that's the whole thing with the cliffhanger situation, because like Gary mentioned earlier, every single character is a cliffhanger for the way this ended the season. You know, we talk about with Lou, the fact that now he has Pernessa. So now, as a viewer, you're wondering what happens next. But I will say this, sticking with Unique for a second, clearly, you know, I feel like Unique, Joey Badass is an outstanding actor. Both, and Malcolm Mays is also an outstanding actor. Both of these characters are going to have a very violent showdown, I feel, next season, because Unique warned both him and Raquel, no, you don't bring family into this. And of course, you know, Sal's wife also told Unique that, hey, I promise that I will take care of your family. So I don't really know what's going to happen with that situation, but I can tell you right now, Lou is a dead man walking, and so is Unique, because I imagine that they're going to want to take each other out. And I also will double down and say B-Rilla probably going to be a casualty of that, as well as Pernessa. And I would not rule out Jerome also being a casualty, because they're all wrapped up in this mess right now. So looking forward to seeing what happens. But one other quick thing I do want to mention about Unique, there's been a lot of thoughts, and I think we spoke about this last week, Gary and I, that I do feel that New Jersey crew at any point can turn on Unique. And I think that is going to happen, because we know how Russo and how Stefano operate. Instead of taking care of their own issues, they are bringing in the Thomas family and Unique's crew to deal with their own problems. So, and obviously, when Stefano was talking with Marvin and Raquel over the last couple of episodes, he has been trying to turn them against each other, which did happen by the end of this episode. So clearly, that's why I said they are continuing to play this game. So I would not be surprised if Russo basically does tell that New Jersey crew, hey, we don't need Unique anymore. You can take him out. So there's a lot that's going to happen next season with Unique, I feel. But one question I do want to ask the people that are going to comment on this show, if you are a Unique fan, after you've seen what Unique has done this season, I want to know, do you still like the character, or do you no longer like him as much as you used to like him? That's just a question I have to anybody that's listening to this show. So please leave a comment and let me know, because I'm curious to hear what you think. So moving on to my second takeaway of this episode, I want to talk about Messy Marvin. Okay. And as I mentioned earlier, this episode is very well written. Sasha Penn did an excellent job with the writing, but I'm going to agree 1000% with what Gary said, is that I feel for this season to really be successful, they needed to kill off a major character at the end of the season. Now, yes, early Tyler was taken out. We knew Marvin was going to get retaliation, but look at how this episode was written from a writing standpoint. The entire episode, you're seeing all of these things happening with Marvin. He goes to Stefano. Stefano officially cuts him and Raquel off. Then Marvin does get back, does kill early Tyler, and he takes his Chinese food. By the way, very hilarious scene. I thought that was great. That's something that the character would do. I loved it. But then we also go to what they're doing with Jukebox in this episode, and how she once again meets up with Aisha. They go talk with a old girl about butter, and they're just reminiscing over what happened to Krystal. And Aisha is basically saying, hey, you can come back with me to Spellman. And Jukebox says, no, I think I want to stay here. I want to stay here and take care of my dad. We're in a very good place now. I feel like he is the reason why I need to stay in New York City. Then after that, you see that there is a scene that Marvin is, he basically sees Amber is meeting her new foster parents. He gets kind of emotional, as if that is the last time that he's going to see her. Then right after that, we have the scene where he goes back to this gas station and he's getting attacked in a drive-by. Obviously, he survives the drive-by and so on and so forth. But what I'm basically saying, when I talk about from a writing standpoint, the way this episode was written, as well as this entire season, it made you feel like something bad was going to happen to Marvin. And obviously, because Jukebox said what she said in this episode, that tells me Marvin is 1000% going to die next season. Because we already know Jukebox ends up in a very bad place. You want to understand how the character gets to be in a much worse state. It's going to be because her dad does die. I saw people having theories that maybe Marvin escapes, goes to DC. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it feels to me like this war is a point of no return for a lot of characters, and it's going to lead to their downfall. Marvin is a prime suspect as someone who I think is going to get taken out. And obviously, to go to Gary's point earlier, the reason they didn't want to take out anybody is because they wanted to keep the cast together for one more season, which is fine. I understand that. But as a viewer, I feel like I would have wanted to see that because I felt like that would have been a story for motivation as to how Jukebox is going to get justice for Marvin. And can that still happen in season 5? Sure, it can. But I feel like they definitely played it too safe in terms of who they took out in this episode. As Gary said, Stefano is still very much alive. They didn't confirm this character is dead. So the only character that really died was Early Tyler and some other characters that we don't even care about. So I was disappointed about that, I have to say. I'm not saying it's a bad finale, though, but yeah, I feel like they could have definitely made a couple of decisions to really make you wonder, because, again, we have to wait an entire year to get more answers as to what's happening, which is fine. But that's just my main critique about the episode. We'll see where they go from here. But the last point that I do want to make, and obviously we will get into all the stuff with Raquel and Kanan, but I do want to say this about Kanan in this episode. I agree with Gary. Kanan is not a very smart character to think that Raquel, obviously we know that Raquel manipulated Kanan from the very beginning. We've seen his entire story throughout all the seasons. We know all the bad stuff that she did to keep her son safe in her eyes, the lies that she did, killing Howard. And the thing about it is that Sasha Penn, I believe, in an interview that Dana had earlier this season, he did say the events that happened in that premiere episode was going to define what would happen with Kanan later on. We knew that Kanan would have a reaction to the fact that Howard got killed. And so it makes sense why all the motivation is for him to take out Raquel. It 1000% makes sense. But still, the point that was made earlier, there is no motive whatsoever to take out Krystal. Because, number one, she did not know Krystal that well. We can make the argument that, and then Kanan had that whole thing where he was talking to his mom and say, you will never let me have anybody. You will never let me be happy. We do know that in the previous season of this show, Kanan was messing around with a much older woman, right? Y'all remember that. And the fact that, Raquel came up there and shut that down immediately. So I can understand some of that to an extent. But still, this girl was in no way a threat to what was happening with Kanan. So for him not to think through certain things, it makes you wonder. Obviously, that was intended with the writing, for him to feel as though, yes, all the stuff that Raquel has done, it's not just about Krystal. It's about everything that Raquel has done to me since I was a kid. I have to make her pay for that. And I understand that, but I will say this. Last season, we saw what happened with Unique. We saw that we thought Unique died. There was a whole big hoopla, interviews all over the internet. Oh, yeah, Joey Badass is no longer on the show, right? Then we get to the season finale. This guy returns. So I don't really believe anything quite yet. We will get into that in a little bit, obviously, when we get into that discussion about Raquel. But I will say, as far as this episode with Kanan, outstanding acting by Mackay, as always. A lot of emotion with all the stuff that he was dealing with. I like the fact they had the scene where he visited Joyce's grave, asked for forgiveness for what he's going to do. So the entire episode, they made you think Kanan was going to do something. Then when they got to that moment, fade to black. So you can be having the discussions like we are for the entire year about what happens next. So we'll see what happens. But the last point that I will make about Breeze, I do agree. I think that Breeze is going to be a very important character to Kanan. I think they did an excellent job in the casting of the character, because I have no doubt that Shamik is going to do an outstanding job. But I will say this: I did see some comments, and I will laugh, and y'all may laugh about this as well. When they introduced him, he was driving that car. He was very flashy. It had a little bit of swag to him when he got out the car, and I saw people were saying, "Hey, now I know why Ghost killed this character, because very flashy, very much out there, stuff like that. And I kind of understand that, because when I saw that, I said, okay, maybe this is where Ghost gets some of his swag from. Because Ghost has a certain style, sophistication. We'll have to find more about that. He did say Breeze was like a brother to him, so I'm pretty sure he picked up some traits from that character. We'll have to see where Ghost is at when they introduce him in this show. But I will say this. I'm very excited to see what they do with this character. I also think it's very interesting that he is the nephew of Snaps and Pops, which makes this a very complicated situation, because we know eventually those characters have to go. Like you both said, maybe Kanan will get the blessing of Breeze to take them out. But I just think that's very interesting, because I didn't think he was going to be in any way related to them. So I do want to see where they're going with this. But overall, I would say I thought it was a very good episode. Was not a fan of the cliffhanger ending. I still think they could have killed off another major character that really, I think, would have cemented a lot of things going into next season. It would have, because again, what they're saying and what they said in that interview, we really want people to feel as though the stakes have risen going into season 5. I get that, but for me to really get it, I need to see somebody get taken out that is a part of one of the sides that's actually in this war. I think that would have gave it a lot more weight, because this entire season, it looked like it was going to be Marvin. And I know the Marvin fans are very happy that Marvin did not perish. But I'm telling you all, the way this episode was written and the whole heartfelt dialogue that Jukebox had about how much Marvin means to her, that tells me he will get killed next season. I can't see them escaping that in any way, shape, or form. But we'll see what happens. But overall, good episode. Let's see where they go from here.
No, yeah, excellent takeaways as usual. And I think that's a great question about Unique. Like, is he still likable? Because I definitely don't think this is the likable Unique anymore. He is a menace though, because when he told Lou that he was tapping Raquel, like that was completely uncalled for. He didn't have to do that. But yeah, this Unique is different. He's definitely different, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. And also what they're saying about Shamik, and I know why Ghost killed him. That's hilarious. Also, um, the reactions have been pretty funny to Breeze. Like, there's been I see some mixed reactions. I think a lot of people really wanted Unique to be Breeze as well for some reason. I felt like it didn't make sense anymore, because like with Unique, it's like you already died and came back. So if there was any time for you to reinvent yourself and call yourself something different, it would have been when you came back. Like that would have been the time to do it. So the fact that they didn't do it then, like there's no way he can be Breeze. Like so yeah, but I think this is a good option having Shamik play Breeze. So I want to see where they take it. But yeah, great takeaways from both of you. So there is a lot to talk about now. There's a lot to unpack. So let's have this back and forth discussion. Um, where do we even start, man? There's so much to kind of touch on, but I guess the only place to start is right here. Like, what happens to Raquel? Like, do we think Kanan really killed Raquel, or is she coming back now? I don't know if Richard, you want to bring up what you and I discussed, because here's what happened. Like me and Richard, we basically had the same thought exactly of what actually happens. Like, and we were texting each other our thoughts at the same time. Like so, yeah. Like Richard, I think I'll let you take it away with that theory. But yeah, there's so many ways they could do that. That's the thing about a cliffhanger. It's like there's so many ways it can go now. I I don't think she's dead. I'll just say that. I'll start with that. I don't think she's dead. I don't think she dies that way, because the thing is, for it to happen like that, where it fades to black and then you hear the shot, and let's say, okay, so the next episode starts and what she's on the ground dead or something, like that would just be so lackluster, in my opinion, to do it that way. Like we should see it. Like, we should have seen it happen if, if like she dies. So in my opinion, that just kind of takes away from it a little bit. Like, it takes away from the moment of what it could have been. But I feel like just the way they did it, I don't think she's dead. Like, I just don't think so. So Richard, I'll go to you first. Like, what do you think really happened?
So that's a very good point, Gary. So let me say this. I understand, like you made the comment earlier, from a marketing standpoint, I understand why they want to do this, because they want to generate a lot more interest for the show, get people talking going into the final season. I'm of the mindset that one of the interesting things about this show from the very beginning was that they introduced all these other characters we'd never heard of. You never knew about Marvin. We never knew about Raquel, Lou, a lot of characters we didn't know about. So I felt like there was already enough interest in the show. I didn't really think they needed to do too much more to really push that narrative. But I understand they really want people to understand how important this final season is. So they really wanted to go all out. Now, with that said, I agree 1,000%. What you say, Gary. I don't believe the character is dead, because, again, it fades to black. Then you hear the gunshot, and then you hear 50 Cent's monologue. What is something like, "Yeah, I did it," or something like that. I think Dana has the exact notes. I don't have the exact notes of what he said. But here's the thing, and we're going to get into Dana's theory as well. The theory that I had, that Gary also had, is that when you go back and you watch the episode, prior to this happening with Raquel, we do see a scene of Marvin being attacked by the gang, by Unique's crew. Okay. He obviously survives that attack. And in the way that was framed in the trailer initially, it looked like Marvin was going to be in a shootout with these people, and he might have gotten shot and taken out. That's how they made it look in that trailer. That's not what actually happened. And Marvin survived. Okay. So fast forwarding to this scene of Raquel being held at gunpoint by Kanan. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Unique's crew also came to Raquel's place to try to take her out. That's why when I heard that gunshot, I was like, that could have been them coming there attempting to take her out. That's why I said I don't really know if it's Kanan, because it makes sense, because, again, they had tried to take out Marvin. So they're going to try to do something with Raquel, all right? You would think that Unique would want to be there, because Unique is the one that really wants her to suffer. But again, he's out here doing all types of crazy stuff, so it is what it is. But what I'm saying is that to me, if you're going to have a cliffhanger, I would think that would have made the most sense, because then you can have this whole thing about, well, and the other thing is, you can have this whole thing is, yeah, they did come there, they did try to take her out. Maybe they were the ones that successfully killed her. But my whole thought is that if the character is dead, we need to get confirmation the character is dead. Let's go back to the OG Power. You guys remember when Angela sacrificed herself to save Ghost? You saw her get shot in the chest. Okay, the show comes back. They confirm that she died. That made perfect sense, because you saw the character get shot, and that was it. So I feel if you're going to do a cliffhanger, I would like to see somebody wounded or something. I don't want to see it just go to fade to black and then people having these theories. And again, I understand the standpoint of it, because Kanan has gone through a lot of trauma with his mom. So he has the right motive to want to see her get killed and to also do it. But I feel like if Kanan, if you are a man, I want to see that on camera. I want to see you take her out. That's all I'm saying. And I think it's very interesting how they had that dialogue between him and Lou in this episode, where Lou tells him, yeah, Raquel is the one that took out Joyce. She was the only one that was man enough to do that. And I couldn't do it. He's basically trying to will do whatever she can to take care of him, to protect the family. This is why he should always have her back. That's what he was saying to him. But really, I'm pretty sure Kanan got that twisted and said, yeah, she does everything. She did a lot of dirty things to everybody. So now he had even more motivation to want to go after her. So I understand what they're doing. I'm not buying it, though. And then I saw today the announcement on Deadline that Patina is exiting the show. I want to give a shout out to MovieBot, because I looked on Twitter. He was the first person who responded to that and said, I'm not falling for this again. Because yes, like I said, they already had this thing with Unique. And I understand that was very well done. outstanding. There were debates online, but that happened the same season where Unique got supposedly taken out, and then he shows up at the end of the season. So there's a much shorter waiting period to find out what happened with Unique. This situation, we got to wait a whole year. So I'm like, I'm not really a fan of that. And again, shout out to Stars, but the way they be scheduling this show, sometimes you don't know exactly when it's going to come, because they'll say it's coming in the fall. This season here, it damn near came at the very end of fall, going into spring. So that's why I said, hopefully, I know they listen to the show. Hopefully they get that together. But otherwise, yeah, the cliffhanger, that was my only real issue with this episode. But I definitely am curious to hear what Dana has to say, what you have to say, Gary, and all the other commenters as well, because I'm pretty sure everybody has mixed thoughts on this. But go ahead, Dana.
Hi. Okay. So I forgot what the question was. It was just I'm so excited to talk about this. Really, what was the question?
It was, what do you think happens with Raquel, basically? Like, do you think he kills her?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you remember, Gary, how he was like, oh my God, I'm sitting up in the home. I'm watching the OG Power. Oh my God. One of the things that I completely remember, because I was doing the same thing as too, because if you remember, there was another video that I did about breaking down season 2, episode 2, and how Kanan knew that everybody set him up, and he was talking about Breeze. He was like, oh yeah, because you killed Breeze, I'm gonna kill you too. I'm gonna kill my son. But the point is, the reason why I bring this up was, if you look at any episode, just go right now and watch the OG Power. You're after us. But if you turn, there's a big old scar on Kanan's neck. Why is there a scar on Kanan's neck? Oh, this is all the years of things that maybe he got knifed in the neck. And then I remember back in the day, Courtney would always do her little IG lives. They need to bring back more IG lives. But they used to do or maybe the TikTok. They used to do the old IG lives where Courtney would sit and ask questions that you on the live that people were like, hey, what's going on? One of the things, I strongly believe that it was Courtney who said this. Jukebox gave him that scar. It was like, oh, to create more of a connection with Kanan and Jukebox. Because, that was when we had the introduction of Jukebox, which is in season 3. I remember how she was supposed to last longer, but she was doing the quad for BET, and then they canceled the quad, which was a really good show. And I was like, well, can y'all just bring her back? And she was like, no, we killed her. So anyway, there's a point as to what I'm saying. Jukebox is the one that gave Kanan that big old scar inside of his neck. Watch any episode and you'll see it. One of the things in the teaser trailer for episode 10 was this. Jukebox is cut to something random. It's sitting like this. Right? And it goes, we don't know if she shoots or anything, but it goes like this. How did the episode end? Boom! And I think Kanan said, adult Kanan was like, and what? It's like, yeah, I did that. But it cuts to black, so we don't know. One, yes, cliffhanger tactic. But for me, that didn't bother me because I'm looking from a writer's standpoint. If you don't implement cliffhangers all the time, you're good. And the fact that season 5 is its final season and Sasha knew that it was its final season, do your thing, boo. Have that cliffhanger. That didn't bother me because season 5 was supposed to be the big, ultimate final season for everything. So if you want to be like, make sure you watch season 5, this is why we watch. And we had the conversation that I put up there as a short where he breaks down as to why he made that a cliffhanger instead of just giving us the answers and everything. The reason why we don't see Raquel die on screen or get shot on screen is because that's not her. That's good old Jukebox. Oh, Jukebox shoot Raquel. No, she shot Kanan, hit the neck in order to stop him from killing Raquel. Because remember, the whole thing, why wasn't Raquel there? Why didn't Raquel stop? We've seen Why wasn't Jukebox there? Why didn't she stop anything? She's talking to him and she's talking to him. And she's realizing, remember the conversation that she had with Raquel? Y'all all y'all do is just I'm invisible. Y'all just talk to me about your mess. and you don't allow me to respond. You don't allow me to react. But guess who did? My daddy. Guess who gave me a gun? My daddy. Remember her military training that she has? That whole thing? My daddy allowed me to go to military. My daddy also allowed me to get out of military. Point that I'm simply saying is this. Jukebox knows how to shoot. That's why she was like, ooh, she got all giddy when she saw the gun. Ooh, right? She also knows how to miss. She doesn't want to kill Kanan. She never wants to kill Kanan. We know that Kanan is alive because I'm telling y'all, go check out the neck on 50 Cent, the scar on 50 Cent's neck. She did that purposely to stop Kanan from killing Raquel because she knew no matter what she said, he wasn't going to listen at all. So my actions, because remember, I'm just somebody to trauma dump on me. I have to, physically go out there. And you can make the argument, well, she could let Raquel die because then it will be payback for while Raquel didn't see her as a person. Guess what? Raquel will see her now. She saved her life, literally saved her life. So that there changes the dynamic of the relationship where I feel Raquel will finally see her as a person and not a dumping ground. And the fact that Kanan is also still alive. We do know one other thing that even Sasha Penn has been telling me. It's on all of the interviews that I have. We will know why Jukebox is officially afraid of Kanan. I'm not saying that it is that shot that makes it like I'm officially afraid of you, but it doesn't sound interesting that someone will purposely shoot you in the neck and you would be afraid of them because I know what you can do to me later on. If I do screw up, you'll actually shoot me. And one of the things that Sasha said is you're not going to like what Jukebox does in season 5. It doesn't mean that she's going to kill Kanan. We all know Kanan can't die. We all know that she can't die. But everybody else is expendable. Who is to say that this truce that Raquel didn't know that she had at this moment, that because Jukebox is saying that she's now so angry, doesn't lead up to her being the one who kills Raquel at the end? Who is to say that Kanan and Raquel work through their trauma, come to an understanding, not immediate, obviously, because we still got the whole season, come to an agreement of something happens between Raquel and Jukebox, and she's not the one that actually takes him out. There's a multitude of ways how this can go, which is why I, and I had nobody to talk to, again, give me the weight, about this finale, because I struggled with whether or not Raquel is actually dead. There's a multitude of reasons as to why she is dead. There's a multitude of reasons why she's not dead. Why would you go through this whole situationship of setting up a war where literally everybody and their mama and their widow is against Raquel? For Raquel just to drop dead. But also, as I stated to you, Richard, and I made the argument also to Gary, at the same time, we've all watched, and I hate to use the show 15,000 times, The Wire. Omar was supposed to have that really big showdown, and all the fans was excited for. He gets taken out by a kid on the corner. What was it, in a grocery store? I'm trying to remember. It was like 20 years ago. Point is this. You don't know when you're going to die. That goes for anything. That goes for you could be the nicest person ever, and an airplane falls on you. Point is, you don't know when it is that you're going to die. You don't know who or what will take you out. So therefore, I'm like, okay, well, then she's dead. Now, when you go, both of y'all are saying that you don't trust Sasha. And one of the things that I've learned about, and I think all people who interview anyone will learn that you can't trust these people because they will lie in your face and smile and kiki and giggle and be like, hey, thank you for watching the show. Thank you for watching the movie. And they would just lie all up in your face. Yeah, she's dead. And she's not really dead. But here's what something that was interesting with the deadline, and this also goes back to Unique. Unique was supposed to die, and if you watch the interview that I did where it showed the panel, he was supposed to stay dead, but he wasn't dead because Joey was like, hi, we can't do this. I don't like this way. He can't die this way. So they brought him back, even though he was dead. And they was like, oh yeah, he's dead. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm dead. Is he dead? He's not dead. So one of the things that was part here in Deadline that they posted was um okay, so it was about Patina Miller will exit the series. Pay attention to language. To Patina Miller will exit the series. Not Patina Miller has exited the series. Will. Okay, they're all exiting the series in season 5. Because there is no more episodes. There's no season 6. There's no 7. There's no 8. There's no 9. There's no 10. Which I really thought they would continue with the theme of like everybody gets 6. At least this would get a 6 because Power got a 6. But no, you got to save money and everything. And we're getting Origins. And Origins is like a spinoff. But it's a continuation. So you can make the argument that's 6. Point that I'm simply saying is this. Pay attention to the language. But Tina Miller will exit the series. Where she brought to life the toughest nails queen pen of Southside Raquel Rock Thomas, a role that originated in season 1. Cool, great. Now I said, here's another thing that I was interested in. You can fake your death. Raquel has so much smoke on her that she got to go against Raquel, Unique. Unique is tied to the mob, the Italian mob people, right? Who's also tied to Snaps and Pops. Breeze is breezing, even though she doesn't know Breeze exists. She knows at the time Kanan can't stand her and will happily kill her. So you have all these different powers against you. Unless it's literally, I don't know, remember in Lord of the Rings when it was about to die and then the Ents came in with the trees, they were walking trees and was like, we're here to fight. Unless the walking trees start coming into this show, they don't have enough people on their side. Raquel you could make the argument she could fake her own death and leave. I don't see that happening in terms of her ego because I've come this far and now you just want me to pretend to die. But it would be interesting. But you can't say that because then that would just be a repetition of Unique. Because remember, Unique died, but he faked his own death. But he didn't die. So I feel that she is alive. I feel that she just got, saved by Jukebox, who shot Kanan in the neck, which is where we got the scar. And I think that they are just trying to fake us. And for those who don't know, remember for the longest, what's that white boy name? Andrew Garfield did those interviews. I'm not in Spider-Man. What's a Spider-Man? Huh? And he showed up in that Spider-Man at the end, No Way Home. And he was right there with Tobey Maguire. So we're used to being lied to. Just in general, as a whole. So I think she's fine. And then, Sasha Penn gave his explanation as to why he killed Raquel, which is he said that it was Gimme Weight, which written by Sasha Penn, says that no one is safe. Nobody is safe. One of the things we talk a lot, both in Raising Kanan and also with Power in general, is the existence of characters by proxy. This means that their presence is felt, even if they aren't there in the physical sense. So to speak, Rock has left an indelible, I can't pronounce that word, a big mark on the family. So if she's not there, we'll still feel her presence if we don't see her. And that's how we do it. Okay, did you say she was dead? Because you were just talking about proud presences and we don't see her, we don't feel her. So that could end up going in, maybe something happened. You could make the argument that Raquel shot Kanan in the neck. The bullet went through Raquel. That's not to say she's dead. That's to say that she's also in the hospital and she has to do rehab. But we're going to pretend that she's dead. I know I'm flip-flopping, but she's not dead. It doesn't make any sense for her to be dead. She's not dead. And then when we go into the original OG, I know we're about that whole thing. I went to go visit Mom's today. Is that the grave? It could be in an assisted living facility. From her injuries. We know of plenty of people. Just check on the news. Pookie got shot in the legs. Can't walk. And he's in a rehabilitation center for the last 50 years. So that could be another argument. The thing that I'm simply trying to say is that he is vague. Very, very vague. And even she is vague as well. Oh, I love this character. This character is amazing. I got to tell a story from season 1 to season 5. I mean, to season 4 or whatever. Then you can make the argument. Oh, but we've seen her also. And remember, as you were stating, the videos and the clips of them filming season 5. Oh, that could be flashbacks. That doesn't mean she's dead at all. So yeah, that's enough of my rambling. She's not dead, and she's dead. So there you go.
I just want to make a quick comment. That's an excellent theory, Dana, about Jukebox. That could be a possibility. I just was going to say, yeah, we'll see what happens. I also don't believe that she's dead, and I feel like there is still more for this character to do, because I feel like in this war with Unique, Raquel, this entire season, she's just been taking L's courtesy of Unique. So I kind of feel like if you're a fan watching the show, you want to see her get payback on Unique as well. That's why I said I think that'll be it. I think it would be good that she does go on and eventually she does have her showdown with Unique. But I do want to ask this question though to you and Gary as well as the commenters. So let's say Raquel does survive. How would you guys feel if they flipped it and in that season premiere Marvin gets killed? How would y'all feel? That would probably be a very emotional twist to start off the season, but it would set the tone at the start of the season to say, okay, now this is a whole new territory. Things have elevated, and now nobody really is safe. But how do y'all feel about that?
I do feel like there will possibly be some swerve like that, because one of you said, I believe it was you, Richard, that Marvin does need to die because of what Jukebox said about, leaving DC and all that. So I do think the character is going to die still. I thought it was going to happen in this episode, but definitely nobody died. So, but yeah, I think if there is some kind of swerve, it's likely to be that, and that Marvin actually dies in the first episode of the next season. It's revealed that Raquel lives, and possibly the whole Jukebox thing happens where she steps in or whatever, or Unique comes and Kanan shoots his people, something to that effect. I could see Bettina Miller possibly surviving, and like maybe she leave, maybe everyone dies and she chooses to leave the game behind and move away or something like that. Like I could actually see her just living, like, and so when Kanan in OG Power says, I just saw my mom's, like maybe she's just elderly and out the game kind of thing or something, like or even like Dana said, the assisted living. I feel like that would be very ironic, like if she ended up being the one that's begging for morphine because like she's laying down injured and or something, like that would be because of what happened to the mom and she gave her the morphine and stuff, so that would be ironic.
Well, let me just say this, Gary, when you made the comment that you said that would be ironic if she is in assisted living, because we know Kanan killed the elderly woman in the regular OG Power, so that would be very twisted if that is the case.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and another thing, remember in that scene where OG Kanan killed the old woman, that apartment belonged to Breeze. So maybe we find out, how Breeze gets that apartment and the significance of that apartment. Because I think that's where Ghost kills him as well. Ghost kills Breeze in that apartment. So yeah, maybe we see that. But Dana, you were gonna say something, so go ahead.
Theory. Garcia comes into play. Garcia is a police officer who has the ability to put people into WITSEC. I'm not exactly sure. I'm pretty sure he can like at least make an introduction to like, hey, witness protection if you turn on these groups of people. Okay, she knows information about Stefano, which she knows information about, Sal and Unique, and she can bring down an entire network of situationships. And she worked as an informant before, because remember, Howard is circle of life. So you can make that argument as well. Kanan only knows where mom is at. I went to go see mom's. Cool. And that he was the only one who can visit her. You can make that argument. The thing is, and then kind of going back on Marvin, we've been talking about Marvin dying ever since he was like, I love you, Jukebox, even though I punched you in the head and threw you against the wall for being gay. Remember that big turn in, like, I don't know, season 3 maybe? When he was like, I love you. It was like, oh yeah, he's being too nice. He gotta die. So I've been preparing myself for Marvin to die since then. And he ain't dead yet. And I'm just like, okay, what we doing? But who's to also say this? We do know that Jukebox goes to DC. Who is to say that Marvin doesn't go with her? Who's to say that it's not Marvin's idea to go to DC while he's alive? I mean, if we're going into witness protection, the family has to break up. What we know about Kanan is when he dies, is there's no relatives that they can find because they've all changed their identities and their aliases. Maybe that could be the reason, except for Kanan, because he's like, I'm not going that way. And Jukebox, oh, I'm going to be a police officer now. So I work for the good guys, but we all know what she ends up doing. So you can make that argument there. I don't know. But to me, my heart is just, it's telling me she's not dead. Because I even said to Patina, I said, you are not dead. It doesn't make any sense. She's like, it don't make any sense. I mean, again, people die all the time. And we did they had a whole monologue about how the innocent dies too. But Rock ain't innocent. If you describing somebody as a demon and that, remember the whole thing about, what was it, Hung something? But I have it written down in the notes, but it was about the Chinese mythology of the demon and how the demon doesn't know that they're a demon. Who tends to live the longest? People who are demons. So I think she's alive. She's fine.
I agree. The last comment I will make, and then I guess Gary can make his comment or go to the next question. The other thing is, like I mentioned, from a viewer standpoint, you do want to see Raquel get some type of payback on Unique. There's also the fact that, she needs to make Unique look stupid for thinking that she was behind this whole thing that happened with Ronnie. And as a viewer, you're waiting for that to happen. So for them to just completely remove that, that's why I feel I don't believe she's dead either. We still are going to get that next season because we need to see how stupid Unique looks when he realizes, oh, I got this wrong. And right after that, he will get killed shortly thereafter. So stay tuned.
And the god is called Hundun. So there you go.
Okay.
Hundun. He's blind, deaf, faithless demon. It's evil. And it can't even see itself that it is evil. And through this whole episode, what did we learn? You're evil. You're evil. You don't even see that you're evil. The whole episode was about how evil Raquel is.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't feel in my soul that she's dead. And I went and I looked up in the mythology. He ain't dead. The god Hundun ain't dead. Hundun sitting around there still for the chaos. So, yay Hundun.
Yeah, excellent thoughts all around. I don't want her to be dead. I think Raquel is a great character and everything, but I do want to see story progression, and some characters do need to die for that to happen at some point. So that's my thing on it. But Dana, it looks like you had another thought just now.
No, I just wanted to really quickly say something about how y'all was saying, like, oh my God, the death of Krystal was like unnecessary. That death of Krystal is actually very important. And it'll go back into when Kanan learns what really happened. And the fact that it was pops and snaps. And also it goes to the fact that he was manipulated. Remember how he said, I've been manipulated all my life. And to finally see someone who he thought he could trust, even though Jukebox was like, it's going to lead to him killing them. And remember when I interviewed Erica Woods, who plays Pops, she stated that Krystal had to die because it'll tie up loose ends. Krystal could still talk even if she's in Delaware. She'll still have communication with Kanan, and she'll still be in his ear saying, I don't trust Snaps and Pops. Because remember, while she wasn't involved with the business, she was at the outsider. She knew what was going on. She observed. She gave advice. Hey, you need to move. Here's a new house. He would have still been in that little raggedy place with OC getting all yanked up and probably killed too. So there you go. She's important, and her death is important, and it shows that he doesn't want to be manipulated anymore. And you can also make the argument as to no, but Ghost kills Breeze, so never mind. We don't know whether or not he was sad that Breeze died. He just kept bringing up that you killed Breeze. I don't think in OG Power they explained that he was sad or had any emotion, right?
I think I think Kanan did hold some animosity over it, but like it wasn't enough for Kanan to fall out with him, because I think what pushed Kanan over the edge was that Ghost set him up to go to prison. Um, but I think like the way it's like acted, it seems like it bothered Kanan, but it wasn't enough for him to completely denounce Ghost.
I have a random question now. Knowing that we're going to get the whole arc of Kanan, we had Demon Kanan when he was adult, but knowing the whole arc of him, are we sympathetic towards this character? Because I'm starting to feel a little bit sad. Like he couldn't even trust his friends when he thought he separated himself from his childhood and the family. He can't even trust Ghost and Tommy. I'm a little sad.
Yeah, it is sad, and it shows, like, it shows the harsh realities of this life, because you really can't trust anyone. Like, you can't trust your family, you can't trust your friends, and that is the game. That is the game that they choose to give their lives to, where you can't trust anyone. You're at risk at any moment. You could be dead any moment. So that is what it is, and it's sad that there's actual children that are kind of growing up into this lifestyle. So that's the sad part of what they're depicting here. So
Could you also make the argument that the only person that he actually trusted was Tariq, which is why he died the way that he did?
yeah, and there's a lot of talk going around about how the reason he connected with Tariq is because they're essentially the same person, because, like, Tariq didn't trust his dad, he hated his dad. And Kanan's going through that same thing right now with Raquel. Like, he doesn't trust her, he hates her, he blames everything on her. They're pretty much the same character right now. So that's probably why it was so easy to connect with Tariq. And if you watch OG Power, the moment the exact moment where he begins liking Tariq is when he brings Tariq to Breeze's old apartment, right? Because he reintroduced himself as Slim to Tariq, like, to kind of like trick him and try to, like, he was basically trying to set up Tariq. He was trying to lure Tariq in so that he could kill him and get back at Ghost, right? So he was actually going to kill Tariq, and he sits him down at the apartment, has him watch TV, and he goes behind Tariq, and it looks like he's probably about to kill Tariq in the same way that Ghost killed Breeze, or the way they described it, where he has the gun and he's aiming it at the back of Tariq's head. And what makes him stop is Tariq says, "I hate my dad," because they were talking about Ghost. And then all of a sudden Tariq says, "I hate my dad." And at that moment, Kanan stops. He switches up his whole plan, and begins using Tariq against Ghost, basically. Like, so that moment makes him connect with Tariq, the hatred of his father, just like how Kanan now hates his mother. Like, so that's really what connects the two characters, like, for real. And like you said, Kanan trusted in OG Power. It was like Tariq was the one person he put all of his trust in, and that's what led to his death, because Tariq double crossed him in the end. So
Now I'm wondering the reason why he killed Jukebox was because of Tariq. But also you can make the argument that maybe later in season 5, Jukebox kills Raquel. After, remember how I stated there'll be kind of like a reconciliation. Jukebox then goes and kill Raquel, and he kills um Jukebox, not only because of her trying to kill Tariq, but it's like, I'm not going to allow you to take another person from me, which would have been his mother. Maybe.
Yeah,
I
that I
don't know.
mean that makes sense. The whole Jukebox actually killing Raquel makes sense if somehow Marvin dies, maybe, and she blames Raquel for it. Like
Yep,
maybe that's a possibility. Um,
I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, Marvin should have died in this episode.
yeah. So
Listen, I
oh,
agree.
go ahead.
He should have died, but I will say this: I love. I'm glad he got his payback on early Tyler, and he got himself some Chinese food. That was hilarious. That was just a hilarious scene. It happened so fast, and I knew as soon as they had that scene, yeah, early Tyler about to get taken out. So that was hilarious.
Oh yeah, he killed him and took the Uber Eats. Like that's straight disrespectful right there. Like that's disrespect.
Wait, that was the Uber Eats guy? I thought that he was like one of like was
No,
in the place with Early as well.
no,
Yeah,
it
no,
wasn't. It
no,
wasn't really Uber
that was a
Eats.
joke.
It,
Yeah, yeah,
that
Gary's
was,
making jokes.
Oh,
Yeah,
haha.
it's
Sorry, I'm
one of his
sorry.
boys. Yeah, no, you good.
yeah, but yeah. So speaking of Marvin and Lou, that's where I was going next. Like, um, who? So which brother's gonna die first? Like, do you think they're both gonna die? Do you think one of them ends up dead? Because with Lou in this episode, so his mission was basically to track Pernessa and then at the end snatch her and the child, which this is a big this is a big thing to kidnap someone's wife and child. Like that is a serious affair. So I'm one thing I'm thinking, like if anything happens to them or Pernessa, like let's say maybe they let the kid go loose but they kill Pernessa, um like that is I think that is enough for Unique to just straight up kill Lou, like just take him out the game completely. Like if he finds out that Lou was behind it, I feel like he would definitely go and kill Lou at that point. But there's also Marvin, and we see that he narrowly escaped death in this episode because they did roll up on him and shoot outside the spot. What was that, gas station or something? I can't remember, but um, yeah, like we know that Marvin's death has been, it seemed like they've been setting up for it for a long time, and I wouldn't be surprised if they actually planned to kill him in this episode but then change their minds so they could keep him for another season. But it seems like his demise is coming, and also if you kill Marvin off, there's more motivation with Jukebox's character, like Dana was just alluding to, for Jukebox to maybe go on and kill Raquel or something. It leaves a bigger impact if Marvin dies. But what about Lou? Because something's got to happen there. There has to be some conclusion, and he's the one that's directly messing with Unique's family. So I feel like he's now at high risk of dying, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Like, so out of these two, which one is gonna survive? And maybe they both die. Maybe, like, who knows? But what do you think about Marvin and Lou at this point in time? And I'll go to you first, Dana, this time.
Okay. So remember how I'm like, I'm team everybody dies? Because I'm like, yay, tragedy, right? And it's a warning story. Yay, tragedy. And I was like, oh, the only people that survive is Kanan and Jukebox. What if it's actually Lulu? Lulu accepted his path in terms of what he's going to do. Remember, he was all like, I'm a dragon slayer and I have no dragon. Right? So he's like, this is who I am. I'm coming into my evilness. The reason why I was a hot mess and a drunkard was the fact that I came to the realization that, like, I like killing people. Yay. So what happens if he's the one who lives and he can continue to be a menace on the streets? Because remember, if we go into the theory of everyone has to break away, right? Marvin is the one who refuses to break. He finally found a place that he liked, which is being the menace on the streets. He doesn't want to go back to kind of not doing anything, because then it's just not for him. So who's to say that he's the one that ends up living? It's just that the family can't have any connections with him anymore. Or he can be the one who's imprisoned. But I just really feel that Marvin has to die. I just don't want him to be around anymore, because you've done played with my emotions so many times that it's just like, please just kill him. So I think that Lulu, one, he could just be his own menace in society while drinking a juice in the hood, or he ends up in jail. So that's it.
Okay, go ahead, Rich.
Well, that's a phenomenal question, Gary. My answer: Lulu will be getting reunited with Famous next season, and Marvin will be joining him as well. So let me say this. First and foremost, B-Rilla being involved in this, B-Rilla will get taken out. That will happen now, because like Dana has predicted, because we saw his girl and his baby, he will get taken out. But here's the situation. You see, the very important scene, I think, in this episode was when Unique decided to pay Sal Baselli's wife a visit. By the way, getting very close to her, I was like, wait a minute, I hope he ain't trying to, get something started. I noticed, I like, hey, relax. Unique, you're a little too close. This woman is way older than you, all right? Relax. But let me just say this. She made a promise to Unique, I will make sure your family is safe. And I think that is going to backfire, because when I think about the fact that obviously Unique does not know that now Lou has Pernessa and Jerome. And I don't know how you felt about this, Gary, but when I saw the fact that they kidnapped them, for some reason, I got the vibes of Snowfall. I think about when Leon had that beef going on in that show, and then it ended up killing a kid. The fact that Sal Baselli's wife is involved in this, she could orchestrate something where she has people, they find Lou, maybe they're going to take shots at the car, and as a result, Jerome gets killed along with Pernessa. But I think that directly, because again, we know that Unique is going to crash out. Joey Badass did a phenomenal job this season with the little, where he gets all crazy and stuff. That's going to happen next season, right? And I think it's going to be because something happens to Pernessa and Jerome. So what I'm saying is, by him directly asking for help from Sal Baselli's wife, that can backfire and go against him, and they end up in the crossfire of getting killed at the same time. Which in that case, I do expect Unique to pay her a visit again and take her out. But one thing I do want to make a comment about before I get to Marvin. One thing that I'm glad they put in this show, that they highlighted, just how ridiculous Russo and Stefano are, where they're basically using everybody else to handle their own issues. And at some point, that needs to come back on the both of them. That's why I said that Phil Russo character, he better get taken out next season. I don't like that character because he's causing a lot of chaos. And Stefano, maybe Stefano won't survive. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Stefano, but clearly he's not dead, because they didn't confirm that he's dead. So we'll see what happens. But to get to Marvin, yeah, I agree with what Dana said 1,000%. Marvin is going to go, because I feel like in the same way that Lou made his decision to, Lou had an opportunity to leave to go to LA with Jessica. He said, no, I'm going to stay in New York because I'm about this street life. So he has to be a casualty of that. In the same sense that Jukebox had a decision in this episode when Aisha asked her, hey, do you want to come back to me and enroll in classes? Nah, I want to stay here and take care of my dad. That's why I feel something is going to happen to Marvin, because the way they set it up, is nobody has a happy ending. And I know, like Dana said, we have been waiting to see when they take out Marvin. I want to remind people that is going to be a very emotional thing when it happens. I think it's going to be far worse than what we thought, because they've taken so long to get to that point. So I hope people are going to be prepared next season for when it does happen. But to what extent of who takes him out, that's what I would like to see, because obviously Unique is going to go after people. Once he finds out Pernessa has been kidnapped, he is going to be going after scorched earth, other family members. So I do want to see how that impacts, but I also want to see how that's going to impact his relationship with Kanan. Because one thing I think we can all three of us can agree, as well as the commenters, when Snaps and Pops introduced Breeze, they made a comment say, "Yeah, we'll talk about Unique later." They're going to try to take out Unique also. I mean, this is what's going to happen, right? That's coming. We can see that coming and down the road because it just feels that way. But we'll get into that. But go ahead. You both had questions.
You triggered me, Richard.
Uh-oh.
You triggered me.
Sorry.
First of all, I want to say something. No, it's a good trigger. First of all, Stefano's alive. Remember the email that we get with the red outlines things?
Yeah.
He's alive. Okay.
There you go.
On top of that, with the red and the email and the things that we get, guess what it didn't say? Guess who's not dead? They didn't say not dead. They just never listed it.
There you go. I know. Raquel.
They never listed it.
Yeah,
so,
see, there you go.
She's alive. She's alive. Remember, there are certain things we can't discuss. Oh, we can discuss it because, okay, so it lists the spoilers, what happens. What's not listed is Raquel is dead. Which is why I knew I wasn't crazy, and I interviewed Bettina Miller, and I said, "You are alive." So you see, I'm not crying new. Y'all don't understand the mental debate that I've had in my head for like this past week on whether or not it was good enough. Because, yeah. So anyway, she alive. But one of the things that you triggered me about is this: Jukebox becomes like psycho crazy, right? And I'm like, oh, she ends up killing Raquel. What is one of the things that we know with this show is that it needs an innocent. Who's to say? I don't feel that Krystal isn't. What was it, Krystal? I don't think she's an innocent. I think Krystal knew exactly what she was doing in terms of where she was staying. An innocent is someone who doesn't want anything to do with this lifestyle, isn't involved at all. So what happens if that's like a red herring of the situationship, right? In terms of like, oh, she's dead, we got our innocent, so we don't need anybody else. Krystal was involved. She may not have been like on the corner, but she was involved and she knew, right? So here's what I think. I feel we're going to get where we're old. Remember, streets need them bodies. Jerome is 8 and mention 8. Jerome got to go. I'm all for the babies. You got the babies. Aisha doesn't know any. She knows she can't give anybody advice or anything. Her entire spiel is, come with me. I'm in Spellman. Oh, she's in Spellman. We met her parents, right? They like her, even though it's like I'm still trying to figure out my life. But she's 17. What 17-year-old knows everything? And then when they meet the actualities of life, things change. So they still don't know everything. The point that I'm simply making is Aisha gotta go. When Aisha goes, that's what triggers Jukebox, I think, and she becomes a monster. Right? Yes, you could make the argument that it's Marvin. Marvin is a part of this lifestyle. She introduced her to that since she was little. She's part of I'm invisible. She means that also to Raquel and her dad. Even though she said, I gotta stay for my dad. I love my dad. You remember the conversation previous to that was, you are the one who brought me into this lifestyle. You're the reason why I know everything. It was in a way a blamation of why she, oh yes, sorry, Richard. Yeah.
Oh no, I have a comment to make after you because you triggered something in my mind. But go ahead.
We just triggered everybody. We getting triggered. We snowflakes. So the point that I'm saying is, Aisha is solely an innocent. She doesn't give anybody advice about anything aside from like, come to college with me. That's it. And remember with the detective, oh yeah.
Oh no, continue.
Remember what Garcia said in the previous episode. We technically wasn't supposed to see Aisha this episode. Because remember, he was like, oh, you're never going to call her, are you? She was like, oh. We was like, no, that's her way of separating. She calls her. She clearly is in the bed with her. She's still there. She got to go. That's it. She did. Yay. We won.
I agree 1,000% with what you said. And of course, they had that scene in this episode where they reunited with their manager, but her manager and talking about the shared trauma. And I remember she asked you, Jukebox, you're changed now. He says, no, I'm still the same. I've always been this way. But the thing I wanted to pose to you both, to really provide a really significant gut punch to the audience. What if Jukebox loses Aisha and Marvin in the same episode? How would y'all feel about that? Because that will be, wow, that'll be kind of devastating for the character, I would feel.
I definitely don't want anything to do with New York City. I'm taking my behind over to DC.
No, yeah, that would be a big gut punch. But the way things are looking now, something like that might have to happen because, like, we got one more season left. I feel like this season needs to be a bloodbath. Like, this really needs to be a whole war. And Richard said something interesting with Snaps and Pops because they did. I can't remember the exact words they said, but they did allude to possibly taking out Unique eventually because they were like, oh, we've got to use Unique and his connections and his network for now. Like, and they emphasis on the for now part because it's like, okay, so you want to use him, but then get him out the way essentially. So like they did really allude to that. So I could definitely see a situation next season where maybe Kanan and Breeze take out Unique or something. Maybe that's part of their mission. And maybe by that point, Unique has already killed off, Lou, maybe Marvin, whoever. Maybe he's done some damage to the family already. So Kanan's like, no, we gotta get him out the paint. So he teams up with Breeze to, and Snaps and Pops kind of gives the go ahead for it. So could be something like that. But go ahead, Dana, you were gonna say something.
I just want to say, y'all keep triggering me again. So in the interview that I did with Erica Woods, who plays Pops, and we had the joke about, oh, now we don't, why you call you Pops, popping bullets in people's heads. She said yes. What we're going to see in the upcoming season is Pops is going to start doing things without Snap's knowledge. She's going to start taking the forefront of situationships, right? And of course, she wouldn't tell me, like, what are the situations? But she's going to start coming into her own person. And that Snaps and Pops situation, you could start seeing the break a little bit. Because remember, the whole thing is my retirement fund. I want to be able to, live out the rest of my days, and I'm going to keep coming in with the money. So she's going to start making deals and situations without, and I was like, is it without the guidance of Pops? She just kept emphasizing, you're going to see her start doing more things. So you could take it as she is starting to operate without Pops. And when you start operating without the other person, therefore your business gets out into public. So you're easy to know how people are maneuvering, and it's easy to break both of you. So as you guys were stating before, I think we're going to see the demise of Snaps and Pops because Pops starts acting and doing things without Snap's knowledge and approval. So at this moment, Snaps and Pops are both in agreement of knowing that it was Krystal, that they had to take out Krystal. It wasn't like, oh, she just acted on her own. No, that was something of an agreement. But when it comes into next, season, we're going to start seeing that fracture. And another thing that was really interesting that Erica always stated before, how it was like, oh, she's flirting with somebody when she starts patting them on the back. If you looked at how it was Erica who embraced Breeze first, like, oh, my baby, come here. She did a little pat, a little feelation on the jacket. Not a huge one, but a little feel on the jacket. And I'm wondering, I'm like, is that because she's always expecting someone to take them out? Because she did that with Ronnie, and she did that with Unique. Oh, come here, my babies. Pat, pat, pat. It wasn't like, oh, I love feeling on that booty. It was more of, I'm seeing if you have a gun. So That's another thing. I'm starting to wonder, because you're so high up on the chain, any and anyone can take you out. It could even be your own nephew. You know, you could be taken out in the breeze. There you go.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because I'm pretty sure they're not going to pat down Breeze. You know, this is a little nephew here. So yeah, that's fantastic. You said it. That probably should happen next season. Uh-oh.
Oh, my
Oh.
bad.
Oh
I'm
no, you
here.
good.
But yeah, what else? What else was there to discuss? Let me see. I know there was something else, but Dana, you mentioned you had some questions, Dana. What else did you have on your list of things to bring up?
I was muted the whole time. No, basically what I wanted to kind of talked about a lot of things, which was basically, you know, we know it's just an introduction of Breeze, so it's really easy to make any kind of theories and conclusions with anything. I was also taken aback. I thought he would be a little more like a menacing character, but I realized that we already saw that technically. We're seeing that now when it came to Unique. We have that already in the wheelhouse. So one of the best ways to win people over, to get them to listen to you, is kind of that niceness. And even though you can make the argument that Breeze wasn't necessarily nice, there is a sort of intellectual kind of openness that he seems to have, even just within that one little scene. And he was, even though he was like staring down at him, he's like, and they spoke that kind of that same language. But it seems to be a kind of intellectual thing about him. And I think that is something that Kanan admires more, probably, when it comes to Breeze. And then also, when you look at, he could have, what happened with Ronnie, I would have expected him to, you know, he is that someone who's really solid and doesn't say anything, but he intimidates you. He can scare you. And I think that was one of the things that, you know, Kanan was afraid of him also. And I think if you was to have Breeze operate that way, it's not something of I want to learn from you, but more of a, I'm too afraid to refute you, so I'm gonna just do anything that you said. And also, it's just another way of repeating that. They're having that same pattern. So I'm happy they didn't make him that way.
Yeah,
One
just
of the
real quick,
things, yep.
I wanted to add on to that because yeah, I completely agree. Um, Bree strikes me as like the kind of guy who's like he's a hustler. Like he's more of a hustler. He's not really like a ruthless stone cold killer. He looks more of like the hustler type who's about getting money. And it's like, you know, I feel like he really comes up with the next game plan that Kanan is going to follow. Like he's going to have strategies and he's going to like really lay out like a whole process of how they're going to double their money and you know like really take over and stuff. So I think he's a money guy and that's why Caden respects him like so much because it's like he helps me get to the next level. So I definitely think Breeze is probably the kind of guy who's like he's not really about killing people unless it absolutely has to be done, like unless there's no way around it. Like I don't think he's going to be the type that's quick to their gun kind of thing. So that's the impression I get of Breeze just based off of the first kind of impression that they gave us. So, but yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think also that it's really ironic that Pernessa is being kidnapped by, what do you call it, Raquel and Marvin, not Lulu, because remember in like previous seasons when Unique died, it was Pernessa that came to Raquel with a gun trying to kill her, thinking that she was the one who killed Unique. So she's not an innocent in a way. So her death means nothing to me. It's more of Jerome and the fact that we named him and we gave an age to him. He got to go. If he was just the faceless child, that'd have been fine. But we saw his face, we saw the interactions, we know his name, we know his age. He's going. So that will be interesting as well. And I also do agree with the fact that they will take him out. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be Raquel and Marvin, but it could also mean, as you guys stated before, snaps and pops. And we don't know the relationship between. Well, no, Unique and Breeze didn't meet yet, so it's easy to take out somebody you didn't meet. You're just using them for the resources. And remember the whole thing with I felt that in a way, um Snaps and Pops felt a certain way about Ronnie in general. They did not like Ronnie, and the fact that Unique, they kind of like doing business with Unique, but I felt that the Unique that he is now is not the same Unique that he is yesterday, that he was yesterday. So he creates more of a threat. So I think that they would want to take him out also, as well. So we just gotta see what is going on. But Unique is back by the mob, so it's gonna be very messy. Till I just don't know. So yeah, that should be very interesting. And the fact that grandma was the only person that really respected Kanan, that's why he went to the graveyard and asked for permission. Because she always said, "Baby, don't tell me about that. I don't judge you here." So she was the only one that I feel understands. So yeah, overall, I just think that it's interesting. And then they also brought up the fact that legacy matters, and we do know that Kanan ends up having a legacy. It's the one, so he ends up having more of the legacy than anything else. So we do see the people who end up making Kanan, and it'll just be interesting how it plays on. But the story still is not over technically. Just probably for Kanan's family, it'll be over because we have origins. And I'm like, unless for some strange reason Kanan is not in Origins, which doesn't really make any sense, he's going to be in Origins. But this will end up with the continuation, so Makai's not going anywhere. So it'll just be interesting to see how all of that plays out. So I think that's everything for me.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say. So yeah, there was the announcement that season 5 is the last season. They officially announced it, right? Did that news come out after the episode last night?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, so yeah, did you want to also talk about that a bit, Dana? Because I know I think you wanted to mention it to some degree.
We kind of already knewish that was going to happen just by how things are wrapping up. It doesn't really seem like this is going to be, a 20 episode show. Because the story itself was very simple. The story is to basically get us to where we end up, meeting Breeze. And I spoke to Sasha, and it is on one of them videos. We've been teasing Breeze for the longest, and it's one of those videos where he says one of the reasons why he was interested in telling the story of Kanan was to find out who the heck is Breeze. How do we, make this link between Breeze and what's going on? And so now that we have Breeze, we're going to spend that season. It's not going to be just a season. I also believe that he's going to be in Origins as well. Shamik is, and it made the emphasis that Shamik, not Shamik, but Breeze himself is young. Remember the whole legacy, and I'm passing down my legacy to you? He wasn't just also referring to Kanan. I believe he's also referring to Breeze. And that is why they wanted them to meet, so that he can have, these are his legacy babies. So when you have your legacy babies, also that means you're going to have to die. I just kind of feel like they're going to die. They're not going to fade off in the sunset as they think they are, but they're going to die. So that is one of the reasons as to why it was important that they make this introduction in this season. And we'll end up seeing in the next season how Breeze impacts Kanan. And probably also in the origin story, how things may, it adds on once Tommy and what's his face, Ghost comes into play. So regarding the show's ending, Sasha Penn stated, give me 5 seconds. I feel like my phone is gonna die. Okay. So they stated that it was, it's renewed. So yay, rejoice. But also at the same time, this was a story that he intended to tell from season one. So he stated that the whole goal was that it was only supposed to last 5 seasons. And that, they announced the renewal of the show back in March. But the show was only supposed to last for 5 seasons, and that he is going to tell the full story that he wanted to tell. And he has it all mapped out, and he knows everything about it. So it's not like, oh, we're canceled, and now we're going to just tie in and weigh everything. This was exactly what he wanted to do in terms of this segment of the story. So I strongly believe um, that we're going to get a final conclusive, and he stated we're getting a final and conclusive answer to everything in season 5. And in season 5, like I stated before, we'll learn why um what's his name, Raising Kanan, is so afraid of Jukebox. And we'll learn why the family is fragmented and separated. And we'll also learn the lessons that Breeze ends up bringing to Kanan. And so he also stated that Shamik, who is Breeze, is going to take a much larger role. So remember how it was like Raising Kanan, and I was like, oh, it's not technically about Kanan, even though it is about Kanan, but it was more about the mother raising Kanan. Raising Kanan, now the torch is passed down to Breeze. It will be Breeze who is raising Kanan, and how he ends up learning everything that he knows, and how they end up with Tommy and Ghost, and that information and how it passes down. So that should be very interesting about how that ends up. And he says this: it was always my intention that Raising Kanan would run for 5 seasons, and thanks to my friends and partners at Stars and Lionsgate, as well as the incredible cast and crew and writing staff, I've been able to tell the entirety of the story I set out to tell way back in 2019. Oh my God, we've been watching this before the panorama. Having said that, with the table we set the season finale, and the inevitable introduction to Breeze, there is still an exceptional, intense, and action-packed season left for viewers to experience. And I assure you that the stakes for Kanan, remember how I said words matter? And the entire Thomas family have never been higher. He's reflecting on season 5. He's not end season 4. It's going to be higher. No, the whole thing we've set in this season finale and the inevitable introduction. There is still an exceptional, intense, and action-packed season left, 5, for the viewers to experience. And I assure you that the stakes for Kanan and the entire Thomas family have never been higher. Raquel's alive.
I was going to say, there's an edit. He forgot to put the entire Thomas family without Raquel. He forgot to put without Raquel. So,
or he could have just simply said the Thomas family, but he said the entire. Oh my God! He just you see what I mean by the contradictions? I love it, but I hate it, but I love it.
And by the way, the last comment I will make. So Dana confirmed that this is going to be the end of Raising Kanan. So what they didn't confirm, but they will announce there will be another spinoff called Befriending Kanan, and that will focus on Kanan and Breeze's friendship. So there you go.
That's hilarious. No, do you know what I find interesting about Kanan? He is always a side character in every show. And that's not to diss the character, because it's a great character. But he is built to be a side character, because in OG Power he's a side character who he's by the side doing his own thing for the most part. In this show, this is supposed to be his show, but he's still a side character, because really this is about Raquel. This show has been about Raquel, and to some extent the entire Thomas family. But Kanan you could argue he was never really the main focus of this show. He's a big part of it, but he's not the one that kind of drives the show. So yeah, Kanan is just a really good side character. And even in Origins, we know that that's going to be about Ghost and Tommy. and Kanan is going to be there, but he's going to be a side character. So it's like he is the perfect side character. Go ahead, Dana.
I could make the argument, maybe psychologically, he knows he can't do this on his own. And it's less risk if he's the side character instead of the main character. So there you go. And if you look at it, he was the only one who went out on his own terms. In terms of Ghost was murdered. Kanan was murdered, but he chose to be murdered. It wasn't like, oh, you randomly shot me down in the street. He chose to be murdered. He got out of that car and was like, you can't get me. Bang, 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 bang. And they got him. Sorry. Half dying. But that's what happened.
Yes, and let's hope that Tariq St. Patrick learned a valuable lesson from that. I guess we will find out when Michael Rainey Jr. returns in Force, or whatever this other show is, that this other spinoff that is coming in the future with Tommy.
And Joseph Sikora is directing either an episode or several episodes in season 5. But Joseph Sikora was like, we're here. And everybody's like, you're here. And he meant that probably as a double, as in like, my Tommy is here and I'm also here because I'm directing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, he's definitely directing the episode that Ghost and Tommy show up in or something. But yeah, I guess we can...
also...
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Carry on.
No, it was just, oh, you're so British. Carry on. One of the things that Shamik Moore also said was that he is, really excited. He's patiently anticipating this moment because he knew. Remember, we talked about that if Shamik was going to be Breeze. In one of the discussions, we was like, it's Shamik. We talked about Shamik, and I made the joke, oh, I hope he doesn't crash out. Because remember the whole Holly situation? But anyway, he said, I have been patiently anticipating this moment, and I'm honored to step into the iconic role of Breeze. I jump into a story that is already alive with such strong characters, but it was a fun challenge to find Breeze's unique identity. And I can't wait for fans to see how Breeze will shift dynamics in the story. It's going to be a wild ride. So there you go. It's going to be interesting.
By the way, that is a very funny play on words to find Breeze's unique identity, right? Very funny play on words. Yeah.
No, that's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. And they don't know each other yet because they never made the introduction. He was like, who's the other cat? Because when he said that, he's like, who's the other cat that you want me to meet? I was like, oh my God, here comes Ghost and Tommy. But instead it was Unique.
Mm-hmm.
So, I wonder how it's going to go. We'll see.
Yeah. So I was going to say, I guess we can end on like, so do you think it's absolutely for sure that we're going to get the introduction of Ghost and Tommy in season 5? Like, is it an absolute at this point?
I think that we're getting a backdoor pilot. So if not by the end of the season, it will be probably either the second to last or the last episode where we end up with the backdoor pilot of Tommy and Ghost showing up.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think there will be an episode where a very pivotal character will die, and then the legacy will continue now with, like, say they take out Snaps and Pops in episode 8 or 9, episode 10, the new beginning, and then this is when they introduce Tommy and Ghost as the people that they're now working on, that are now working underneath them, and that's how they continue the story. That's possibly how they're going to do it.
Yeah. And how I imagine it is like, I think that we'll see the introduction of Ghost and Tommy, and maybe like when they first meet Kanan. But I think once Origins comes around, they might, in the first episode, they might actually go back in time just to show like more of the origins of both Ghost and Tommy and how they met, maybe, or something like that. Like I think, you know, they'll go back in time before they come back to where the future is, kind of thing. Like, so I think I think we'll get the point where they all meet in Raising Kanan, but then in Origins, they take it back a step to kind of build up to that moment. Maybe I think that's maybe what might happen.
That's a good
So
theory. I just want to
also,
make a I just want to make a quick comment. I just want to say I'm very excited to see who they cast as Tommy and Ghost. They've done an excellent job of casting Mackay as Kanan. So I'm very curious to see who these other two kids are that are going to be playing Ghost and Tommy. That should be pretty exciting.
Yeah. Do you think, like, because remember at the end of original Power, they had that scene in the epilogue where they was at college or something, like Ghost, Tommy, and Angela. Do you think that those same people could play them, or would they be too old now?
Oh no, I think with that actor who was also in, I believe he was in the show Shameless. That guy is well into his 20s now, maybe late 20s. I don't think this is going to be the same people, but I'm curious to know who they are, though, for sure. Gotta look forward to that.
Yeah. And Dana, you were going to say something.
no, I was going to say that it's really interesting about one thing. Courtney Kemp never wanted to show about them being kids, so I think all of this is absolutely hilarious. But the three of them don't meet until 1996, when Kanan is around 19 years old. So he getting up there now. It's time for them to meet. Um, and so I think that it's really interesting. And the thing is that Tommy learns everything that he knows from Kanan. It never necessarily said that he had such a strong connection to Breeze. It was Ghost and Kanan that had that strong connection to Breeze. So I'm wondering that, yeah, we can get Ghost, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get Tommy. And then also another conversation ship about Tommy is Ghost and Tommy were around, kind of like, from my understanding, 10 years old at the start of when Kanan is 15. My math could not be I think it's mathing. But basically, Ghost and Tommy at the start of Raising Kanan season 1 would be 10. Which, yes, you have little bad kids at 10, but not now. So it would be beneficial for at least one of them to pop up, maybe at the very end, where they would be, oh god, they would be around. We make the argument maybe 15ish. Because I'm trying to understand. Kanan is 19 when he meets Ghost and Tommy, and Breeze is still alive because that's how they taught him. So they're like, what? I can't math, but 4 years apart. Gary,
Yeah, they would
I
be
see you
like
going on
15,
and
16. They'd be like 15,
on. Yeah.
16. But yeah, it like you make a good point. Like they don't have to meet Kanan at the same time. Maybe one of them meets him, you know. Yeah, yeah, it might not be together. We might not get both of them in season 5. So we'll have to see what they do there. Shouts to DJ Talks on Twitter, a friend of ours, but he said to me, like, basically, Tommy Tommy's the one that's probably in the streets before Ghost, because he has to be. Because if you remember about Tommy, he doesn't really have a family. Like his mother is, she's addicted to drugs and alcohol and stuff. So she's not really raising him properly. So he's probably already in the streets, just, because he has to be. He has no other way to survive. So it's likely that maybe he actually meets Kanan first, or something to that extent. Whereas Ghost, he had a father. We don't know much about his mother. We know that his father was a drunk of some sorts. I think he had a bar. So yeah, like it's more likely that Tommy meets Kanan first. So maybe we'll get that. Maybe that's why Joseph Sikora is directing as well. You know.
And by the way, one other quick thing I will add Just as a backstory, this whole thing between Breeze and Ghost, it has to do with Ghost's dad and the fact that Breeze finds out certain information and threatens to tell people, and that's when Ghost approaches him. Much like with Tariq, all the situation that happened with Tariq and Ghost. So we're going to see the origin of where that came from at some point. That's further down the line with Origins, but I just want to make that comment. So we will see Ghost's dad at some point in that show, I would imagine.
Yeah, another thing is in that epilogue scene at the end of original Power, one thing they said is, "Oh, Kanan's going to introduce us to Breeze today," or something like that. They say something to that effect. So,
okay, yes.
that's another interesting note. Now, I
What did
do
you
want to
say? Wait,
say
repeat that.
in that epilogue scene in OG Power at the end of season 6, when they
we're
say,
all
"Oh, Kanan's going to introduce us to Breeze."
the same scene where everybody is now much older than they were in when they shot that scene. So very interesting.
Yeah. So, but I want to say this also. They could absolutely retcon some stuff, like, because I think it's normal when you go back and do a prequel and stuff. Like, some things probably get retconned just so they can tell a good story, and I'm sure they didn't really have the full story planned out when they were writing original Power. Like, maybe they had some notes of what they think happens, but I don't think they had the entire story fleshed out. So they could retcon a few things, and maybe that isn't when, like, maybe they meet Breeze sooner than they're supposed to in what we're watching now, basically. So, you know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, any final thoughts before we end this off?
So remember how the whole Lou was explaining, I think it was Lou. Lou was explaining to Kanan that, hey, grandma died, Raquel killed grandma, because she was able to take that weight and it was meant to be an inspiration. Kanan actually took it the other way. He was like, "Oh, you raggedy me, you killed my grandma. That's because you don't care about anybody."
Yeah,
So
that
when
was
he came
funny.
to that, yeah.
No, carry on. I just saying that was
Oh
funny.
no. So the whole reason, the whole explanation as to why, another reason why he's there, was that when he was at the grave, it was like not only just permission to go and like kill. Yeah, I'm gonna go and kill Ma, but it was also more like an avenged plot. Like, I'm gonna avenge her death as well. And I feel, and he also explained it. He definitely shot. There was a shot. He came there to shoot. Now, again, I think that it's going to be a jukebox that shoots Kanan to stop her from killing Raquel. But that was the actual intention. That's the goal. It wasn't like he's wavering. And in that moment, well, the reason, Patina didn't move or even shoot him back was that, she was so overwhelmed with sadness that she couldn't move. She was more like, all I could do is just close my eyes at that. But at that moment, he completely lost everything, all kinds of respects. There's no kind of, it's hard to know whether or not, I don't know if there's going to be like a reconciliation moment. Or another theory you can also make is that Kanan is shot by, what's her face? Jukebox with the whole neck and the scar, but the bullet ends up traveling into Raquel and she dies anyway. And the reason why Kanan is upset with Jukebox is because that was supposed to be his kill, not hers. So that is another explanation as to why they could, be upset. But another thing here is that Sasha Penn did say that Kanan is 17, right? I don't think we're going to meet Tommy in Ghost because he's not 19. He's not even close to 19. He's close in terms of like, oh, it's 2 more years. But unless they do a time jump, I don't think we're going to meet Tommy and Ghost at all in season 5. And also, when I spoke to Sasha, it was all about Breeze. It wasn't about Tommy because he'd be like, "Yo, I got these characters that I know you expected," and we'll be like, "Oh my God, this Ghost and Tommy." He's like, "Breathe." So no, I don't think we're gonna meet Tommy or Ghost. I think the origin story is gonna literally just be Tommy and Ghost, and then we meet them later on. So they would probably it would, and then who's to say that that's season 1 of the show? That could be season 2 of the show. Now again, there are no rules when it comes to TV and movie in terms of age, but Sasha stated he is 17 years old. He ain't 19, so we ain't get him in
I feel
Origins
like
most
they're.
likely. Yeah,
I think they're gonna retcon it.
they're
I think
lying.
they're gonna retcon the age because it's so hard to stick to that creatively. Like when you go back in time to tell a story, like it's so hard to stick to the details and also flesh out the story. So I think they're gonna retcon some small details like that and have them meet earlier. Absolutely, and it makes more sense to do what you said, Dana, and make it like a gateway for Origins, like a sub pilot kind of thing. So I think absolutely we're gonna see at least one of them, Ghost or Tommy, next season. But
Also, another oh,
yeah, go
another
ahead.
thing that Sasha did say was this is that he wrote the role for it was for Shamik. They didn't see anybody else. He wanted Shamik in it. Period. Maybe you can argue that was because of his work in the Wu-Tang series. I don't know. Maybe it was Spider-Man. Who knows? But he wrote the role specifically for Shamik. And that with the Breeze character, yes, he is that whole he gives to me the vibes of my brother. Maybe especially with that hat that he had on. But somebody said he looked like Carlton and I fell out laughing. But no, he looked like remember Carl from what's his face? What's that show? What's the show? Martin. That was with Tommy.
Cole?
Remember it was Tommy and Carl? Cole. Tommy and Cole.
Cole.
Sorry. Somebody said he looked like Cole. And fell out laughing. But there it's not gonna be all happy and cookie cutter. It is also described that the role of Breeze, because remember we weren't there to actually see Breeze, he is very dark and he is menacing and he can be a bit of a little sociopath, a little manic, little bird. So it's gonna be fun. So maybe he's a little blend of Ronnie as well. Who knows? And then maybe because he has that darkness, because Sasha said there's a darkness in him. He has that darkness. One could also make the argument as to why what was it? Ghost felt more justified in killing him. Who knows?
No, I think Sasha Penn was absolutely correct when he said he wrote the role for Shamik, because I also think that Shamik told him only if you make it end on a cliffhanger, like across the Spider Verse. Like I think that was one of the conditions. Like,
10 years later, we still don't have a conclusion.
but yeah, Rich, did you have any final thoughts?
Oh no. Yeah, I thought it was a good episode. I thought we had a very great discussion. I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone else has to say, what they thought about the episode. But yeah, I'm looking forward to season 5. I'm just not looking forward to waiting until next year to watch what happens next. But hopefully, we'll find out about a date earlier, sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, I did hear that Gary cannot wait to see the return of Force this fall. So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be interesting. Definitely. But I hear that you're excited for BMF though, so there's only a couple weeks to wait for that. So
well, no, you mean Dana. I didn't say anything about that. That's all Dana. BMF. That's right.
You will not be shading my BMF, people. It's amazing. No, but like seriously, if you guys are a fan of BMF, we will be having a whole bunch of interviews from the rooter to the tutor to the costume designers to showrunners. So stay tuned for that. And we're getting music, sweet music, when it comes to BMF. So we're finally getting the whole record deal situationship within this season of the show. So yay!
Oh yeah, I'll be watching BMF. That's for sure. But we'll see. We'll see how that season is. But yeah, I want to end this off by giving some shout outs. First of all, big shout outs to DJ Talks and Movie Bot. Big friends of the show and everything. And also, I want to shout out to some of our regular commenters who always support the show. So just being honest, 313, big shouts. Demarcus Vaughn, shouts to you. Shouts to Tracy Lee. Shouts to Rai One. Rai One shows a lot of support, so big ups to Rai One, and he's from the UK, so shouts to you. QT Pi A3687, shouts to you also. Moody Day Trader, Noir Angel. Um, I said Tracy Lee already. Rainy J. And yeah, everyone else who regularly comments, big shouts to you. Sorry I didn't get back to the comments last week. I was in hospital, but I will make sure to respond to all the comments on this one because this is an important episode. So yeah, yeah, that is going to be it, and we'll return this fall to cover Force. I'm sure everyone's very excited for that. The return of Omari Ghost. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. He's not confirmed, so he's not confirmed. So don't run with that, please. But but
Yeah.
yeah, we'll be back for Force. So take care of yourselves, people. Keep a lookout for some of the other content we have going up because we do have a lot of other power related content coming. And then, also there's going to be some BMF stuff. So subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the entertainment channel. If you love gaming, there's going to be a whole bunch of gaming news coming out in the next few months because it's going to be Summer Games Fest. And, Richard is going to be out there in the field and I'll be following what's going on too. So there's going to be a lot of gaming stuff to cover on the gaming channel. So subscribe to the Koalition Gaming also. Um, you can go to the koalition.com, coalition with a K, to get, basically everything. Like everything is posted on the website. So, whether you like gaming or entertainment, all of that stuff goes on the website. So definitely check that out. But yeah, that is going to be it for now. Go ahead, Dana.
Also have Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett from Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. We got that as also. Yay. So stay tuned to that. And of course, we have a bunch of Disney and Marvel show. Don't forget, Ironheart is coming out in June. Even though it's not getting the marketing that I think it needs to be marketed as, Ironheart is still coming out in June. But yes, we have Angela Bassett and a whole bunch of other shows and other events that are popping off. So, yay.
Oh yeah, Dana's the next Oprah, just so you know. Like she's doing big things. So so yeah, go check out all of that stuff. But peace out everyone and take care.